Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of The Awesome with Cody. As usual, I'm your host, Cody, and today we are wrapping up June 2021's theme of awesome adaptations, blah, 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 blah. So today, the reason this one's last for two things. One is I've actually talked about a couple of these already, but also was hoping we would get the rumored teaser for one of them so I could talk about it, but all we have is an image, and the real bad part about it is the production isn't set to wrap on the first season until a few days from now, July 5th, which is this coming Monday. So we probably really won't see anything until after that whole thing wraps up. Anyhow, so to tell you what I'm talking about, I am talking about Brian K. Vaughan's properties that are being adapted into television's programs and things like that. There's three main ones. I've actually talked about all three of these before on the podcast. Now there's a little more detail on at least two of them. I won't go over all the stuff. Just a little bit about what they are and where they're going to be on, or what they're going to be on for streaming services. That is because the two will be television shows on a streaming platform of one of another, or different ones than each other. I don't know why I said it that way. So Brian K. Vaughan, for the folks who haven't heard me talk about him several times now, which tune in next month because I might be talking about him again because his birthday is 2 days after my birthday, and I thought maybe you'll just make July a Brian K. Vaughan month. I don't know yet. I'm trying to figure out what to talk about that I haven't already talked about, because I've talked about several of his works, and I'm going to talk about a few of them right now. Not in depth, so it may be next month I may talk about more about those. Anyhow, so Brian K. Vaughan, his properties that we're going to be talking about, they're being adapted into television programs and maybe a movie on one of them. And then my thoughts on something else that I'll get to, hopefully, if I remember. I have my notes, so maybe I'll keep on track. Maybe I won't. Anyhow, so the first one that we will be seeing will be later this year as of September of this year. I believe the actual date is September 13th of 2021. It will be available on Hulu? No. Yeah, FX on Hulu, which formerly was FX, but they're doing more of the streaming stuff that has to do with Disney and ABC now owning Fox, and their properties, FX being one of them, and having controlling stake and I think almost full control over Hulu in general. They have the option to put those on there, and I believe they are going to do that. And I don't think it's a full dump. I think it's a release week by week, like a lot of the shows on there are, because they're slowing down the whole dump a whole season of shows like Netflix does, because they want to spread their content out while they get more and more made, things like that. Anyhow, I'm not part of that business. I'm just saying that's a pretty good idea for a lot of things. So Why the Last Man, for the folks who don't know, is a story about Yorick Brown during the essentially apocalypse that happens, where every creature on Earth that has the Y chromosome dies. A horrific, real fast death, cataclysmic event, decimating every mammal with a Y chromosome, but one man and his pet monkey Ampersand, and that is Yorick Brown and his pet monkey that goes by the name of Ampersand. And it's a lot more too. I'm not going to go down the whole thing. I think I did that on an episode before, so search for that if you want. But so the cool thing about this show is it's going to have a lot of really strong female characters. It's also going to have a lot of strong female villains to go along with the heroines. And I'll tell you right now, Yorick Brown is not going to be, well, if they go by the character in the comic book, he is not the strong masculine man. He's actually kind of a fuck up, and he is obsessed with his girlfriend Beth. So we'll see how that goes down in this show. But so basically, he for not to spoil what it is, but you find out that he and Ampersand are the only two living mammals on Earth after this cataclysmic event, and he has to basically, he is on his way to Australia to find his girlfriend Beth, because he doesn't know what's going on, but he does know that people have gone missing and or dead, and then shit has gone south because a lot of industries, when this was written, and again, I don't know how it's gonna be portrayed on television, but when it was written, it was kind of a show of how many, again, I've talked about this before, how much of the world is run by men, and when shit goes south, at first, everyone thinks the world is going to end, but women are resilient, women are strong, women are smart. They will eventually rebuild the world in their own ways. They don't need no man. And it's a cool story about how at first shit goes south, not because women can't handle the world, it's because the world falls apart because there is nobody there to put it back together. And so it's basically about the world, the society's drop, and people not understanding things. There's religious aspects to it. There's cultural aspects to it. There's all different things. Pretty cool. And again, I'm not the smart man. That's Brian K. Vaughan and Pia Guerrero who created the book. That's their I think kind of the whole thing is that's what it's there for. And there's a lot more to it. That is just the bare bones of it. But that's what kind of the whole thing's about. Not a whole lot of well-known names in this. Probably the biggest name is Diane Lane, who's going to play Congresswoman. I was going to say Congressperson. Congresswoman Jennifer Brown, who is Yorick's mother. And then Yorick himself is being played by a gentleman named Ben. I think you say it as Schnetzer. I'm not too sure. Or Schnetzer. I don't know. Yorick could be played by any dude, really. Happens to be white, but that's not has to do with anything else. It's just the fact that they already cast a lot of other characters in there. But there will be a lot of cool characters. There's a character named Agent 355, who is played by a young lady named Ashley Romans. I don't know anything about her. I didn't look her up. But she'll be playing her. That you have Diane Bang, who plays Dr. Allison Mann, another huge character in the show. Olivia, I think it's Thrilby, plays Hero Brown, who is Yorick's sister. And there's a reason his name is Yorick and her name is Hero. Their parents, or I think it's their dad, if I'm not mistaken, or if it's their mom, I can't remember. Their parents are Shakespeare fans. That's where the Yorick and the Hero come from. And there's a lot of cool shit in there too. But there's a lot of awesome characters to be seen. They, depending on how far the first season goes, how many episodes they have, how deep into the story arc they go, once you get past the first story arc, there is a sprawling amount of characters to be added. There's Second Beth, which is explained in the book. There are ninjas, and there are astronauts, and all sorts of crazy shit going on. There's Amazonian women who are the daughter of Diana, right? I think it's the daughter of Diana. Hold on, I'll see if I can find it in here. But basically, is it Daughters of Diana? Is that what it's called? Or that's what they call themselves? I'm trying to look it up. Where is Hero Beth 2? Daughters of the Amazon. Sorry, I mixed that up. Daughters of the Amazon is a group that's very prominent in this show, and it's very cool the way they do it. And so on and so forth. There's a lot that goes on. Great stories. There are a total of 60 issues, I believe, is all that there. I didn't say all that there is. Yeah, 60 issues. You can get them in multiple ways. There are the easiest way is to trade paperbacks or digital version. Again, not a sponsor of this particular podcast unless they want to be. Comixology does have them. It's a very easy way to get it. Even if you buy them individually, they're actually fairly cheap. I believe I'm going to look them up right now. But I believe if you have Comixology Unlimited, you can actually read. That is the individual issues I was looking at. They have issues 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Volumes 1 and 2 are on there. So you can get into at least 10 issues of it through Comixology Unlimited. Then the collections, they have omnibuses you can get. They are 5 of them that collect the all 60 issues. It's 1 through 10, 11 through 23, 24 through 36, 37 through 48, and 49 through 60. There's even bigger versions if you can find them. There are premium or deluxe edition hardcovers you can get. The omnibuses are paperback still, but they do collect their bigger volumes, so they're a little easier to get a hold of versus the 10 individual trade paperbacks. And I think those are more readily available now too than the trade paperbacks, the individuals. And then, of course, like I said, there's the premium or the deluxe edition hardcovers, which will be the hardest to find because they were limited print, if I'm not mistaken. And then if you like it, if you want to gather them in the best the format, to me, not to read but to collect, is the Absolute versions. Absolute Y Last Man Volume 1, 2, and 3. They're about $100 or so each, but they're oversized, which makes them awesome because you see Pia's art in a glorious fashion. There's a lot of extras at the end. They're like I said, hardcovers. They have the little ribbon in them for the bookmark. Gorgeous covers with glossy and slip cases. Awesome. And then if you want to collect the whole thing, there's one omnibus you can get. Came out 2019. It's issues 1 through 60 and one real thick paperback you can get. And it's pretty awesome. I highly recommend reading it. And that's it for Y the Last Man, soon to be on TV this year in September, hopefully on FX on Hulu. Hopefully we'll see the trailer soon. I will post a picture on the website, so if you want to see the picture of Yorick in his costume, and you'll understand that more. And if you read the book or watch the show, you will see in that as well on the website. Starting today, it's 10 o'clock when it goes up, like it normal does. Next, the next show that is being made, it's already has a lot of. They shot the pilot already, which is super awesome that they're doing that. But it's going to be over on Amazon from Legendary Television and Plan B, who is the production company that is owned by Brad Pitt, or co-owned by Brad Pitt, which is pretty cool. There's a lot of things going on. I'll post a picture of the cast or the cast and crew at the wrap of the first episode, the pilot episode they filmed. Hopefully will go on. It's going to be interesting to see how the pilot episode goes, only because the story explodes into ridiculous scope later down the line. So it's going to be interesting seeing how they do it. It is live action, as far as I know. The adaptation is being created or being written by Stephanie Folsom, who was a co-writer on Toy Story 4, with Brian, and I think Cliff Chang is also executive producing it. I think it might just be Brian and Stephanie that are producing it, but I can't remember. Anyways, he should be getting some credit on there too because his art's amazing and he helped create the actual books itself. So he's touted as a co-creator. The reason Paper Girls is probably one of the Why Last Man's one of my favorite books of all time. And I've read it several times. I own so many different versions. I own all of the individual issues of Why Last Man. I own the deluxe hardcovers as well as the absolute editions. I have issue number 1 signed by Brian K. Vaughan. I waited in a very long line for it. And sacrificed not getting a copy of Saga, which is something I'll talk about in a little bit. Signed by him just so I can get Joe a signed copy, his copy signed too. And you can only do so many books. So I was like, well, I guess I'm just gonna do those two. Those ones. I did a Saga. I did Why Last Man issue 1, and I did Ex Machina issue number 1. But that's a thing for another day. Anyway, so I love Why Last Man. I love Paper Girls. I have all the issues of Paper Girl, the individual issues. I have the large deluxe hardcovers of all 3 volumes of it. I love it. I tell people to read it all the time, especially people who are fans of Stranger Things, because it is set in the essentially the 80s. Well, it starts off in the 80s. It's hard to explain. There's a lot going on in it, and there's a lot I don't want to spoil, I guess you could say. But basically, the whole story is about a group of girls who are newspaper delivery girls. They ride bikes. That's why they're called Paper Girls. They deliver the paper. They are foul-mouthed, and they're kids. That's what they do. They're teenager, preteens, I should say. It's fantastic. It's just this ridiculous story about them and the future, you should say. It's just, it's phenomenal. You should read it, check it out. I do believe, again, not a sponsor, you can read them on Comixology Unlimited. If you don't want to buy physical copies, you can get the digital versions as well, and it's just as good, especially if you have a nice tablet. But right now on Comixology Unlimited, you can read the where are they? Collected editions. Volume 1 is available on there. And that includes issues 1 through 5. So if you want to check it out, you can. So you can check that on there, but you can buy them, and their image books are usually pretty cheap for the most part when it comes to trade paperbacks. If you want the hardcovers, they're going to be a little hard to find because, again, they're limited pressings of them, but they're about $30 to $40, maybe $50 each, and you can get them through you can get them online from Amazon, you can get them from Barnes & Noble, you can get them from a local comic shop. Hopefully they can still order them, they may even have them there. Check them out, pretty cool book in there. Like I said, I will post the picture of them, the cast and crew that Brian actually posted on Twitter, I think it was last week, which got me super excited because I thought maybe we were going to see like them in costume, but then again, it's just a bunch of girls in regular late 80s outfits. So, baggy jeans and cool like jackets and jean jackets and fucking wide collars and shit. Smoking cigarettes. But yeah, that's Paper Girls. Soon to be an Amazon property. I believe they ordered. I don't remember if they ordered a whole season or not. I know they just wrapped the pilot. Oh, maybe that's what it was. They wrapped the pilot, and if they like what they see, and maybe some like thought of what's gonna come, maybe we'll get a whole season out of it. We'll see how it goes. I think it's Amazon's. I really think it's Amazon's attempt at doing a Stranger Things type thing, even though it's not about monsters. It's more sci-fi, time travel-y stuff. Anyhow, that's it for Paper Girls. The next thing I was going to bring up is Ex Machina, which again I've talked about on this podcast before because I've talked about Paper Girls, I've talked about Why Last Man, I've talked about Ex Machina, but Ex Machina is the property that is a movie, or is going to have a movie maybe as of late as January of last year, 2020. It was announced that Oscar Isaac would produce and star as the main character film of the series, or the soon-to-be movie comic book series 100. That's his name, 100. In the film adaptation, the film is set to be retitled The Great Machine, which is the reference to the first story arc. First story arc or last story arc? I'd have to look at that actually. So I can't remember if it's. Anyways, it doesn't matter. The Great Machine has to do with a bunch of shit in the show, or in the whole thing. But they're going to change it because there was a movie that actually starred Oscar Isaac, called Ex Machina, and they don't want to confuse the two because they're nothing to do with each other, other than the fact that he's the same name and have machines in them, but not the same type of machines. Does that make sense? Anyways, a lot of confusion was going on because when it was announced that Oscar Isaac was in a movie called Ex Machina, everyone assumed that the 2005 movie, or 2006 movie, was it 2006? Or whatever, was going to be that, and then it turned out to be a different movie, written and directed by Alex Garland, who, don't get me wrong, fantastic movie. It needs to be seen by everybody because it's a incredibly acted movie. Oscar Isaac is amazing in it. Can't think of his name right now. General Hux, Domhnall Gleeson. He's amazing in it. And I can't think of her name. Alicia, or no, Olivia? No, Alicia. What is her name? I can't think of what it is. Anyways, great movie. Has nothing to do with the Brian K. Vaughan property of the same name, unfortunately. Not unfortunately because they shouldn't be. It's just it wasn't the adaptation, which I'm glad. They shouldn't do a movie, by the way, if I'm going to be honest with you. This should be it should be a show because there's 50 issues and there's a lot to go on with it. I understand why they're doing a movie because you can boil a lot of it down into a movie, but the character of 100 and his essential story is not just a 2 to 2.5 hour long thing you can tell, especially if you go into the minutia of it. And the thing that Brian does so well in a lot of his books is he has subject matter that is not really tackled in other things, especially for the time frame and the shit he was bold to do. Like, for example, like in the book 100 as a superhero, The Great Machine, which I believe is what they refer to him as, he saved one of the towers from being hit by one of the terrorist planes in the 9/11 terrorist attack. So that's a very interesting thing. So one of the towers still stands in that book, and it has to do with him later on becoming mayor of New York, and all sorts of crazy shit happens in it, and it's phenomenal, and everyone should read it, as well as I hope they just go forward and be like, hey, I know you want to make a movie, but you know what you should do, Oscar Isaac, you should make a television program, or at least a mini series where you can do multiple long format versions of it, because there's a lot to it. There's a lot of cool characters in it. There's a lot of cool things that happen in it. It's just it's one of my favorite books. Brian K. Vaughan's one of my favorite writers, why I always talk about him on this podcast, and even the other podcasts I've talked about him on there many times. And it's just, especially now with the production quality we have and stuff, there's not a whole lot of CG-ish stuff. There will be, but there's not the environments are real. They're not abstract. You could do a lot of things practically as well as enhance them with a lot of the technologies we have nowadays, with shooting as well as just After Effects and things like that. I think it's on par with what could be as good as what you get with The Mandalorian, for example, because of the world you're shooting in is real. It's in New York. It's in other parts too, but it's in New York for the most part. You could have physical sets built, and it'd be phenomenal. It'd be great. You could do it, and it would really lend well to a very long format story, and I think you could really grab a lot of cool moments on TV with it. I think, anyways. But maybe I'm biased because I love the book so much, and one of the reasons that Why Last Man is so divisive for a lot of people is it seems like it's one of those things where it could easily be ruined. Joe would say so. I have faith that Brian will not let it go down, especially as long as it's been in production, because they started filming in 2018 in Why Last Man. So we'll see, because they shot the pilot. The pilot was picked up for a whole season. Pandemic happened, so that kind of slows some shit down. But they finally are finishing up in July of this year, in a few days from when this is being recorded and released. So we'll know more. Hopefully I can update with a trailer on the website or something. I don't know. But anyways, that's going to be Ex Machina. We'll see what happens with that, future things. The last thing to talk about real quick is, I have some other stuff on here, but I'm going to save some of that for next month's Brian K. Vaughan Palooza, in honor of his birthday and my birthday, and how we should be good friends. Anyways, so Saga is one of his biggest books, and I'll talk more about the story of Saga, because I don't think I have on this podcast. If I have, I'll look back and see if I have. But if not, I'm briefly touch on it here. Hopefully more coming out next month when I talk more about Brian K. Vaughan stuff. But basically, Saga is his current running book. Y'all should check it out. It's amazing. It's like Star Wars and Star Trek and Lord of the Rings and some batshit crazy stuff with robot people with TV heads and talking walruses and bounty hunters and spider women and giant cats that can tell if you're lying or not, and a tree rocket. I know that sounds insane, but it's amazing. And again, you should read it if you can. They have collected editions out. You can get. I think they have three books that include all the way up to issues 54. A compendium you can get that came out last year, 2019, along the lines of Why Last Man. There are 9 individual trade paperbacks that collect all 54 issues. It is an ongoing book. I don't think they've announced any end to it just yet, because it is so goddamn good, and they have it planned out for a lot. But I don't know totally if they have I know Brian has said in the past that he has an idea how it's going to end, or he has an ending planned, but there's so much in between that he's not even ready to talk about that. And it's really cool story, and it's real fun, and it's got a bunch of cool characters, none of them live, and a lot of just real cool aesthetics, and Fiona Staples' art is phenomenal. Brian K. Vaughan's writing is top notch every single time he touches pen to paper or puts keys to the clacky clack on a keyboard. Doesn't matter how he makes it, it's awesome, and I love it so much. And the characters are phenomenal, and there's just so much to love about it. There's magic, there's science magic, there's ghosts, there's crazy spider ladies, like I said, and walruses that talk, and cats that are called lying cat that can tell if you're lying or not, and just really cool characters, a really cool world. Again, this crazy dynamic of things that aren't really ever talked about in a lot of times, and I think is very well done by Brian and everything like that. And you should check it out. Go from there. Anyways, that'll be it for this week's episode. I tried to get it under 30 minutes. I just broke it. But that's it for this week's episode. That's it for June's theme of awesome adaptations or future adaptations or whatever you want to call it. More to come later, I'm sure, because there's other adaptations of stuff out there. Some from these creators as well as other creators I'll talk about another time, because I love this stuff and it's a part of my passions in life. Anyhow, that's it. Hope you enjoy. Read those things. Like I said, check them out on Comixology. Buy real copies if you have time to get them. The nice thing about digital, I've always said, is if you have a nice tablet or even if you read it on your phone, they look great, especially on tablets, especially the tablets you have now. But it's you can get them. You don't have to worry about being out of print. They're fairly cheap, anywhere from like $10 to $12 at the most for the individual trades. And it's a great way to read them, and especially if you use Comixology or even the Image one too, because I think it's powered by Comixology. They have the guided view, which I don't think I've ever talked about in this. It was one of my favorite features about it. Is it'll zoom in and it will follow. It'll show you how you read, because sometimes comic books can be hard to read because they're so busy, and you skip parts that you need to read. And the guided view will actually show you how to read it properly, so you get the full breadth of everything, and you can stop that whenever you want and zoom in on art, and it's amazing. So again, not a sponsor, but if they would like to sponsor, I'm willing to let them pay me to talk about comic books and their product. Anyhow, that's it for me, whoring myself out to Comixology, wink wink. Anyhow, that's it for this week's episode of The Awesome with Cody. I have been your host, Cody. Tune in next month when I'm probably going to talk about Brian K. Vaughan again, because there's a lot of stuff he's done that I love. But we'll figure that out next month. Maybe it's going to change. I don't know. We'll find out. Probably not, because I'm kind of set on it. Anyhow, that's it for this week's episode. That's it for this month's theme, like I said. And as usual, like I say at the end of all these, let's be awesome.